There's a moment in every human life, a moment that feels like the end. The job you lose, the person who leaves, the diagnosis that changes everything. The night when silence is so heavy, you begin to believe that life has turned against you. And in that moment, you ask the same question millions before you have asked, why is this happening to me? But what if? That's the wrong question. What if your suffering isn't trying to destroy you, but to awaken you? Viktor Frankl, a man who lost everything in the concentration camps of World War II, believed that suffering, when faced with courage, can become the most sacred teacher of all. He didn't speak about this from comfort, or from the safety of philosophy books. He spoke from inside hell. He watched people starve, collapse, and disappear, and yet, among the ashes, he found something no one could take away: meaning. Imagine this. You're standing in the freezing cold, your body weak from hunger, your identity stripped away to a number sewn on your sleeve. And yet, in that darkness, Frankl began to see that even when everything is taken from you, there is still one freedom no one can touch: the freedom to choose your attitude. That realization didn't come in a quiet moment of meditation. It came in the mud, in the cold, in despair. And that's why Frankl's message cuts so deep. Because it wasn't theory. It was survival. He noticed something the rest of the world had missed. Not everyone who suffered broke down. Some transcended. They were no stronger physically. They didn't have better luck or more food. But they had something else. A sense that their pain meant something. That realization became the seed of Frankl's lifelong philosophy. Suffering is not the end of meaning. It's often the beginning. It's strange, isn't it? We live in a world obsessed with comfort, always chasing pleasure, always running from pain. We think happiness means feeling good. But Frankl would say, happiness is not something you chase. It's something that happens when you live with meaning. And meaning, more often than not, is born through suffering. When Frankl first arrived at the camps, he had a manuscript, his life's work. It was ripped from his hands and burned. Years of writing, gone in seconds. Everything he had lived for, erased. But in that instant, he made a choice. He decided he would rewrite that book in his mind, word by word, while he worked, while he froze, while he starved. He would not let them destroy what existed inside him. That was the moment he stopped being a victim of his suffering and became a student of it. And maybe that's what life is asking of you too. When pain comes, not to escape it, not to curse it, but to listen to it. Because pain carries a message. It whispers, there is something in you that must grow, something you've been avoiding, something only this suffering can awaken. Think about it. Every major transformation in your life has come from a season of discomfort. You didn't grow because things were easy. You grew because they weren't. Maybe your heartbreak taught you how to love deeper. Maybe your failure taught you humility. Maybe your grief taught you empathy. Pain forces you to look at who you are when everything else is stripped away. And that, Frankl believed, is where your true self begins to speak. He once wrote, in some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. The pain doesn't disappear, but it changes shape. It becomes a doorway. Through it, you step into something larger than yourself. You begin to see that life is not here to make you comfortable. It's here to make you conscious. Frankl didn't glorify pain. He didn't ask people to seek suffering, but he asked them to face it with dignity, to meet it not with despair, but with the quiet strength of someone who whispers, even this will serve a purpose. Because suffering, when met with meaning, has the power to save your life, not by removing the pain, but by transforming what it does to you. Pain breaks the illusion of control. It strips away the ego. It burns through everything false, until only truth remains. And in that space of ruin, you begin to rebuild. You begin to see who you really are. Maybe you're in that place now, the place where nothing makes sense, the place where everything hurts. But if Viktor Frankl were here, he would tell you this: don't run, don't numb it, don't turn away. Look directly into your suffering and ask, what meaning can I give this? Because if you do, you will find what he found, that suffering can destroy you, or it can save you. Pause. And perhaps this is what Frankl meant all along, that suffering is not life's punishment, but life's invitation. An invitation to stop merely existing and start awakening. When Viktor Frankl was taken to Auschwitz, he was not just a man. He was a doctor, a thinker, a husband, a dreamer. But within days, all of that was gone. His head was shaved. His wedding ring was stripped from his hand. His name was replaced with a number. In that moment, everything that had defined him was erased. Everything, except one thing: his mind. That's where meaning lived. And that's where his survival began. Frankl realized something that almost no one around him did. Even when life takes away everything, it can't take away your freedom to choose how you see it. He wrote later, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." That line wasn't written in a library. It was discovered in a death camp. Every day in Auschwitz, Frankl watched people die. Not just physically, but spiritually. Those who believed their suffering had no meaning, who saw only chaos, cruelty, and loss, faded quickly. But others, those who carried even a flicker of purpose, survived longer. They had something to hold on to, something to fight for, even if it was just a memory, a promise, a dream of one day telling their story. That's when Frankl understood. Meaning is oxygen for the soul. Without it, we suffocate, no matter how perfect our lives seem on the outside. And maybe that's the same oxygen you've been missing, because pain without meaning feels unbearable, but pain with meaning becomes fuel. It becomes the fire that pushes you forward, that sharpens your spirit, that teaches you who you truly are. Frankl began to test this truth in the smallest ways. He imagined himself standing in front of a classroom, lecturing about the psychology of the camps, as if he had already survived. He created meaning in advance, and that vision gave his suffering purpose. Every day, while others collapsed, he told himself, "I must survive, not for myself, but for my message." That became his reason, and that reason became his strength. You see, meaning doesn't erase pain. It transforms your relationship with it. When you attach your pain to a purpose, suffering becomes no longer something happening to you, but something happening through you. You stop being the victim of your story and start becoming the author. Think about it. A sculptor takes a rough, unshaped stone and cuts away everything unnecessary until the form inside is revealed. That's what suffering does. It carves. It strips away illusions. It reveals what's real, but only if you let it. Most people run from pain. They numb it. They distract themselves. They fight against it. But Frankl chose to face it, and in doing so, he discovered what he called the will to meaning, the deep human drive not just to live, but to live for something. He noticed that those who survived weren't always the strongest, but those who had a reason, a person to love, a purpose to fulfill, a truth to defend. That reason became their weapon against despair, and that's true for you too. Your reason, your why, is your armor against the storms of life. When life breaks you down, you don't need to be unbreakable. You just need a reason to rise. Frankl's why was his unfinished book, his love for his wife, his belief that the human spirit could find meaning even in hell. He clung to that belief like a flame in the wind. And though everything else was taken from him, the flame never died. Because meaning is not given by the world, it's chosen by you. Maybe you've felt the same, a time when everything seemed pointless. When grief, failure, or loneliness hollowed you out and you wondered what the point of it all was. That's the moment when Frankl's message matters most. Because when you can't change your circumstances, you can still change your perspective. And that shift, that quiet act of defiance, can save your life. He once said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." That's not just resilience, that's rebirth. When life breaks you open, you have a choice: to close off or to expand. And if you expand, if you choose to find meaning in the suffering, you emerge stronger, wiser, freer. Frankl saw the human spirit as something indestructible. He called it the defiant power of the mind. It's that mysterious force that allows people to rise after tragedy, to forgive the unforgivable, to rebuild after ruin. It's the part of you that whispers, "I will not let this destroy me. I will turn it into something sacred." And that's the power of meaning. It doesn't erase the darkness. It gives you a reason to walk through it. Because when suffering meets purpose, pain becomes strength, fear becomes fuel, and despair becomes direction. That's what Viktor Frankl wanted us to see. That meaning is not something you discover at the end of your pain. It's something you create in the middle of it. So when you suffer, when life feels unbearable, remember this: there's still a choice. A space between what happens and how you respond. And in that space lies your freedom and your meaning. Pause. Because maybe the very suffering you're running from is the one that's trying to save you. There's a strange paradox in life. The moments that break us are often the moments that reveal who we truly are. We don't discover our strength when everything is easy. We discover it when everything is taken away. And that's exactly what Viktor Frankl learned in the camps. He didn't find meaning despite suffering. He found meaning through it. Because suffering, when faced with awareness, doesn't just test your spirit, it introduces you to it. In the darkness of Auschwitz, Frankl began to see something miraculous. The people who had lost everything, their homes, their families, their names, still had one thing left: their ability to choose who they would be in response. Some became bitter. Some became cruel, desperate to survive at any cost. But others, and this is what fascinated Frankl, became kinder, more human, more awake. Even in starvation, they shared their bread. Even in fear, they comforted others. Even surrounded by death, they still chose love. That's when Frankl realized, suffering doesn't create character. It reveals it. Pain strips away everything false. It takes your titles, your possessions, your control. And what's left is something raw and undeniable: you. That's the hidden gift of suffering. It removes every illusion until you come face to face with your most authentic self. Frankl began to see that humans are not simply creatures of instinct, driven by comfort or desire. We are beings of conscience, and when life pushes us into the fire, that conscience, that inner voice, begins to speak. It asks, "Who are you when nothing is left? What do you stand for when no one's watching? What will you hold sacred when everything else burns away?" Maybe you've had that moment, not in a camp, but in your own kind of darkness. When the life you planned collapses, when your heart breaks, when your future disappears into uncertainty. At first, it feels like death, like something inside you has ended. But slowly, if you're quiet enough, you begin to sense something else, a new voice rising from within. It's softer, wiser, more real. And that voice whispers, "This is who you are." That's what Frankl discovered. That pain can strip away your false identities, the ones built on status, success, or approval, and reveal the soul underneath. he wrote. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That's the moment transformation begins. Because in that stillness, in that place where control is gone, you finally meet the part of you that was never dependent on the world. He called it the defiant power of the human spirit. It's the force that says, you can take my freedom, my dignity, my life, but you can't take who I choose to be. It's the spark that refuses to die, the one thing that cannot be broken, your awareness, your integrity, your soul. This realization turned Frankl's suffering into revelation. He began to see that life's purpose isn't found in avoiding pain, it's found in how you meet it. He started to view suffering as a sacred mirror. It shows you everything that is temporary and everything that is eternal. Think about how fire works. When gold is heated, the impurities rise to the surface. It looks like destruction, but it's actually purification. That's what suffering does to the soul. It burns away the false until only the pure remains. The person who emerges from that fire is not weaker, but forged, refined, whole. Frankl saw this again and again. Those who found meaning in their suffering did not just survive, they were transformed. One man who had lost his entire family began helping others survive the camp, saying, "I can't save my family, but I can save someone else's." That choice didn't erase his pain, but it redeemed it. It gave him a reason to keep breathing, a purpose that outshone the suffering itself. And that's the hidden truth of pain. It can open your eyes to what truly matters. When you suffer deeply, you stop chasing trivial things. You stop pretending. You stop living for others' approval. You start living for what is real: love, kindness, meaning, presence. That's what suffering teaches, the art of authenticity. It's a hard lesson, but Frankl believed it's the one every soul must learn. Because until life humbles you, you never realize how much of your strength was only sleeping. Until something breaks you, you never discover the power that's been waiting underneath. And once you do, you can never go back. Frankl didn't want people to glorify suffering. He wanted them to understand it. He wanted people to see that suffering is not always punishment. Sometimes it's initiation. It breaks you open so that something greater can be born within you. He once said, "What is to give light must endure burning." That was his truth. The burning was his suffering. The light was his meaning. And maybe that's yours too. Because one day, when the pain fades and you look back, you'll see that what felt like destruction was actually creation. That your suffering didn't just change you, it revealed you. That it wasn't trying to kill your spirit, it was trying to set it free. Pause. So when the fire comes, don't curse it, stand in it, let it teach you. Because sometimes, the hardest seasons of your life are simply life's way of saying, now meet your true self. What if your suffering is not a sign of weakness, but a call to something higher? That's the message Frankl left behind. He said, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." The why, that's your meaning. And once you find it, nothing can truly destroy you. Think about the power in that idea. When you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can this mean?" your suffering transforms. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and become the author of your own story. That's what Frankl discovered. That meaning isn't something life hands to you. It's something you create, even in pain, even in loss, even in despair, especially there. He used to tell his patients, "Don't aim at success. It will come as the unintended side effect of dedicating yourself to something greater than yourself." In other words, meaning doesn't come from pleasure or power. It comes from purpose, from loving someone, from serving something, from giving your pain a voice that can help others heal. And maybe that's the real secret of suffering. It connects us. When you've known pain, you understand others more deeply. You become softer, more compassionate, more alive. That's the quiet miracle Frankl saw, that the people who suffered deeply, if they chose to find meaning in it, became radiant, almost unbreakable. They had lost everything, yet somehow they had found themselves. So the next time life breaks you, remember this: your suffering is not your end. It's your beginning. It's not the fire that destroys. It's the fire that reveals the gold. It's not the storm that ruins. It's the storm that reshapes the shore of your soul. And in that reshaping, you might just discover the same truth Viktor Frankl did, that no one can take away your freedom to choose meaning. No pain can erase your capacity to love. No darkness can extinguish the light you carry within. Because meaning is not found in what happens to you. Meaning is found in how you respond. That is the secret. That is the power. That is the miracle of being human. Cinematic closing line. When you can no longer control your life, you are invited to control your spirit. And when you give your suffering meaning, you do not just survive, you become free.